Sorry. I'd like to call the work session to order. We're going to be starting with some open forum, and I'd like to read the statement first. The ISD 318 school board shall provide a specific period of time where persons may address the school board on any topic subject to limitations of policy 206. All individual comments shall be less than 5 minutes. Any group of 5 or more persons must appoint one person to present the group's views to the board. Depending on the number of persons present, the school board chair reserves the right to set further time limits to allow participation within the allocated time. The board shall not allow negative comments in public session about individual employees or students. Specific factual information or recitation of existing policy may be furnished in response to inquiries, but the board shall not deliberate or decide regarding any issue that's not included on the agenda posted with the notice of the meeting. If there are more requests and time available, priority will be given to persons that reside within Grand Rapids Big Fork School District. And a note, there is some time after the board meeting for additional public comment if everybody has had a chance. Just one note, Pat Maduri is attending remotely from 2010 Magnolia Drive, Lake Havasu City. At this time, Carol Cobb.
Good evening. Good evening, Chair Schroeder, Superintendent Gross, and board members. My name is Carol Kopp, middle school language arts teacher and union president. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. First, I want to extend my thanks to the school board for moving up the timeline for losses and reductions nearly 3 weeks. We know that it was aggressive and it was difficult, but that helps our staff make life decisions as well. However, please remember that for every job loss, there are students directly impacted. Over the last 4 years, we've cut 38 teacher positions with an additional 4.4 this year, 42 plus teachers in 5 years. These are parents, alumni, community members with all with ties to the community. Class sizes are going to be larger. There will be fewer staff members to promote student growth and achievement. Also, I would like to thank you. I just saw the proposed cuts. I do want to thank you for listening to the unit leader group. We did have a unit leader group that worked tirelessly to come up with some ideas that would not impact students, so thank you for listening to those. And finally, community members and those watching at home, please realize that without a referendum in the near future, our district will continue to sustain cuts, which will directly impact students and the community. Thank you.
Carol. Elliot Swan.
Hi, I am Elliot Swan, and I'm here to voice my concern about the proposal of the cup tennis. I have been playing tennis since I was 4 with Jen and Lou as coaches. I was super excited to be eligible to play on the tennis team throughout my high school career. This proposal would strip that from me. I managed in the fall with the girls team. I played in the spring and summer with the boys team. My question to you is, what was the process of this decision? Why tennis? Why this decision? Why were there no other options? Why were there no other options? Fundraising, shorter schedule, less travel, etc. If there's a decision involving students, why is there no student input or involvement? Why is there no community involvement in the decisions that is made in our district? Thank you.
Thank you. The next person, Sue Reynolds. Am I pronouncing that right?
Oh, okay. My name is Sue Bigwood, and I am concerned about what I've heard that there's proposal to be grade level schools. A lot of people I've talked to are very concerned about this also. But I think that there's a part of the issue is not only the grade level schools, but before we finally voted in the referendum for the new schools. Grade level schools was one of the things we were told, either you have to get new schools or we're going to see grade level schools. Now here we are 4 or 5 years later, we've got new schools, the referendum went through, and now we're back to grade level schools. Nobody wanted those. That was a good portion of why people voted for it, because they did not want to lose their neighborhood schools. And this now is going to create all kinds of issues. Drop off, pick up. Some people will have kids in every single school, but they have to pick up, drop off on time. There's nobody's gonna want to be doing fundraisers for a school that their child was in for 3 years. You're gonna lose all that community feeling if we don't have the elementary schools the way they were set up already. And the people are wondering, how is busing going to work? And you pick up one family and they have to drop off kids they have to be delivered at some point to 4 different schools. How does that work? Nobody has heard any of this. I'm hoping that the school board can answer these questions at some point, because they're questions that are out there. And then I'm wondering, okay, how much savings is there actually going to be? Nobody's heard the numbers, nobody's heard the math to justify this. Is it that great of a savings? And a lot of people are wondering, it's really nice if we had a lot more information put out that would be very helpful to understand what's going on. Thank you.
Amy Adams.
Good evening. I'm Amy Adamson. I have 3 children currently, 3 teens. A lot of my concerns are similar to many people today. Again, the grade level school is concerning to many parents. I have one child that is special needs. I've talked to many other special needs parents. We are all greatly concerned because part of having a school home for 5 years, 6 years, is knowing your school. That's really important to many families, not just kids with special needs. So again, knowing exactly why and how much this is saving versus any other options would be great to hear. I really don't see how the transportation will be beneficial to the students and to our district's funds. So a lot more information needs to be communicated clearly before things are gone through. I don't see how this is going to be a benefit to our students and our district.
Jenny Johnson.
Good evening, board. My name is Jenny Johnson, and I have a son who plays and loves tennis. I ask that you consider heavily what you all already know, as the tremendous positive impact that sports has on kids' physical, mental, and also academic growth. I have an extensive background in finance, accounting, and budgeting. I've been an accountant and CPA for nearly 20 years, and I've practiced public, private, and governmental accounting. I say that so that you all know that I empathize with what you are trying to achieve and understand that budgets need to be balanced. However, understanding the large expenses the district has, respectfully, it feels like you are missing the forest for the trees, considering cutting tennis. I'm requesting that you share the cost that cutting tennis will save you in the budget, and then give this community an opportunity to fundraise that money to support the program costs and keep the tennis program. Sports teach lifelong lessons that can't be learned elsewhere. I ask you to please reconsider the tennis program.
Jim Olmsted.
Good evening, board. Jamal Stead, 30 years in the district. I heard tennis program maybe back. I started to think back to student teaching for Mario Lucia, 1872, and Ed Gregerson came to see me and said, Jim, how would you like to coach tennis and play college tennis? And he comes out, yeah, Ed, we don't have courts. He says, come with me. Took me out to Camp Mishawaka, and there was 4 courts out there for those years. The rest of that spring, we bus boys out there. We had a tennis program, and then I didn't get hired for a few years. Came back in '75 and coached boys and girls tennis now. And my concern is, tennis is a lifetime sport. Families travel, they go to resorts. There's golf, pools, tennis courts, and the amount of money that, even back then, it was basically a couple cases of balls, transportation, coach's salary, t-shirts every 3 years. So it was kind of a minimal sport as far as expense. No equipment for racket, shoes, that type of thing. I just hope that, you can look at that. I know there's many cuts and I don't envy you, but please take a good look at that. Thank you.
Brad Buell.
Good evening. Hello, Matt Gross, the 318 board. I come to you as a parent of 3 tennis players. I come to you as a physical education teacher. And most importantly, I come to you as the coach of the boys and girls tennis program. My love for tennis began quite young, playing for Greenway Middle School, JV, and high school program. I started coaching tennis for Greenway and smiling immediately after graduating. So to say the love of the sport is definitely there for me. And I look at all my players that surprised that go to me tonight, coming in parents, and just in awe. I'm in awe at the fact that you're thinking of the program. But as Jim said, and others, it is a lifelong sport. It's a fabulous sport. There's so many players that, that's the only sport that they play. And they're telling me tonight for boys preseason practice. So what else are we going to do? There's nothing like tennis. We have to do after. So please ask of you to think twice about decisions. Thank you.
Ian Smith.
Hi, Ian Smith. I have currently 3 kids in different grade levels with the 318. Next year I'll have 4 kids that will go into 3 different schools in 318. Year after that I'll have 4 kids going to 4 different schools in 318. I'm kind of curious how it makes sense. How having the same amount of kids, the same amount of schools, the same amount of teachers just mixed up does anything for budget. I haven't seen any metrics, I haven't seen anything. It doesn't matter. I'm curious why I heard about it on Facebook today from friends instead of backhands message. Got CSAP, got all the stuff that's supposed to be informed stuff out to schools. And I heard it on Facebook. If you could just make it make sense, I would appreciate it.
Megan Radke.
Hello, I am here tonight on behalf of the boys and girls tennis teams. I have 3 kids in the 318 district, the 8th grade girl on the tennis team, and an upcoming 6th grade boy, and 1st grade girl who will be also making the tennis team. What I would like to know, actually, what was the process coming to eliminate tennis, and how does the process work to eliminate a sport that also involves Greenway? What is that process? How much money will this actually save playing tennis? Tennis is a sport where all you need is a pair of tennis shoes and a tennis racket, and you can play it at any court across the country. It doesn't take a lot to get started. It doesn't take hundreds of dollars in equipment to get started. I think it just widens the gap between sports that are harder for people to get into because they need a lot of money just to get going. There's a long history with tennis in the Grand Rapids and Greenway districts with Lou and Karen Smiley coaching for over 40 years. They're still playing tennis. It's a lifetime sport. So I'd ask that you reconsider cutting this program. And I guess I'd like to know, what was kind of, so, thank you.
Charlotte Watts.
I come up here as a GRG tennis player. I've been playing sport for 10 years, and I know that everybody in this sport is so passionate about it, and it truly feels like we belong in this. We've all connected together, and I know that there's a lot of younger kids joining, and tons. I mean, 30. So I think that this could get really big as we progress. And I understand that, maybe it costs a lot and stuff, but as a Greenway student council member, I know that we could probably help with some fundraising. And this is the only this is the only sport that we really individually play, but also as a team, and I feel like that's very unique. And I know that a lot of kids don't play any other sports, and they like that, like they said earlier. And yeah, I just ask you to consider, because I know a lot of people are really attached to this sport. And yeah, thank you.
Alyssa Holman.
Hi everyone, my name is Alyssa Ullman, and I've been playing tennis since I was probably 6 years old, and I can genuinely say from the bottom of my heart, I don't know what my life would be without it. I've made so many friends through tennis, so many bonds with coaches, and it's always just been something that I've always had to look forward to. And I actually don't play any sports now, and I look forward to playing tennis all year. As soon as the nets are off, I'm out hitting and stuff. And I agree with what Charlotte said. Shouldn't we find funding someplace else? I'm sure there's a lot of businesses who would be willing to donate, because it gives kids so many opportunities. If the program is cut, where would I play tennis? There's no other team around here that I can play tennis for. Greenway and Grand Rapids are combined. Nashua comes here too. There's no place that's really that close unless I drive 45 minutes every single day to play my favorite sport. So I'm just wondering, where are you gonna tell us to go if you have a program? And it's so important to so many people. So that's just.
Sarah Lee.
Good evening, I'm Sarah Reed, and that was just my daughter that spoke. Already, a lot of people have brought up some good points. I'm here to speak about the tennis program as well. I agree with a lot of what people have said, and what they're wondering is there's not a lot of overhead to this sport. And granted, I don't know specific numbers, but again, I heard one mom mention tennis shoes, balls, a racket. It doesn't take much, and I just found out about this afternoon, and I was pretty upset, and kind of rallied and tried to get people to get here. This does mean a lot. I've seen the positive influence that these older players and the younger players in the program, the coaches, everyone in it, the influence that they have on my daughter. She's not someone who plays team sports necessarily. I guess it is a team, but it's very much an individual sport. It gives kids like my daughter an opportunity to really hone in on different skills that you just can't find in another activity. So I do want to know as well, where did you guys come up with the why is this even an option in my mind? It just seems beyond me, because the tennis program in this area is second to none. everywhere we go, they compliment our kids. They say how great our kids are. It's a way of life for these kids, and it teaches them manners. It teaches them how to treat other people, and more so than other sports. So I have a son who plays other sports. This is different. I've already talked to 3 to 4 people in this town, just in passing this afternoon, who are willing to sponsor this program and donate to this program because they've seen firsthand what this program has done for these girls, for these boys. And so just this afternoon, I was able to obtain 4 different people who will help with this. So I would like to know, I guess, what is the overhead after you know, they buy their tennis shoes and their rackets, like, and what does gas cost? I know our coaches drive the kids. So that's my question, I guess. These kids are role models for these younger kids growing up, and we need this program. We have great coaches. You don't find coaches like Jen and her kids very often. I think it would be a mistake to cut it. That's my opinion. But so thank you for giving me.
Timothy Quist.
My question is, why is it always the students and families that have to sacrifice? Did any of you volunteer to take a pay cut? How about any of our executives? I know if I was sitting up there and it came to me, hey, we're gonna cut tennis, or would you like to not get paid? I'd say, don't pay me, don't cut those. It's ridiculous. Why them? Why not you? If it weren't for sports, when I was these guys' age, it was the only thing that kept me alive. In fact, that I could go and play. I didn't care about math, science, any of that. I would have dropped out. I would have quit. The only reason I made an effort to get decent grades was so I could play. And additionally to them having to sacrifice what they care about, what keeps them motivated to get good grades, what keeps them motivated to wake up in the morning. You're going to split the schools? I'm going to have to go to 3 different schools to drop off 4 different kids because I'm not putting them on the bus. You already proved the buses aren't safe for our kids. You already proved that. I'm not the only parent that knows that. What do you make? 200,000, 180, something like that? You can't take a $5,000 pay cut? I know I can, and I make 45. But I'm not the one making the decisions. Something to think about. Something to think about. I won't be putting my kid on a bus, but I guess I'll have to just get up that much earlier to get them all where they need to go so I can make it work on time. Shame on all of you. Take a long look in the mirror. Stop asking kids and families to sacrifice. Tighten your own belt.
At this point, that's all the people that signed up for public input. We're going to adjourn the work session. Okay. Sure.
Sorry, I apologize. I was
No,
at lacrosse practice that I was running, so I came in a little bit late. Sorry, I'm Tim Marie Ferguson, and I know I've been in conversations with Matt Gross on things too. I was just seeking some clarification, and I apologize if these topics have already been addressed by my later Bible. So if that's been the case, I will watch it back, and I apologize for that. My concerns are just about the school division. My first concern I just want clarification on is that our current buildings were not erected 4 years ago to support the K2 and 3-5 model because the community overwhelmingly expressed that they desired to have a neighborhood school. And I just am seeking clarification as to 4 years ago if this was already something that could have been in the pipeline, because I feel like if we knew that this could have been an option 4 years ago, maybe we should have explored modeling these buildings differently or presented them to the public differently. And I get that maybe, I mean, nobody has visions into the future. I can understand and appreciate that. I just wanted some clarification on that point. If it moves forward with K2, 3, 5, is this decision permanent, or is this something that we could revisit if we get additional funding? Or is this something that once this decision is made, it can't be reversed? So I'm curious on that as well. And I know this is a really emotional and hot topic for lots of people. Even my first grader came home in tears today because he was upset that he might not be able to go to school with his brother anymore. And I understand this is part of growing up. This is part of maturity, and he would be fine either way. But it's a disappointment for me to see him shedding these tears, which maybe could have been prevented. And I was also curious if there will be staggered start times so parents could accommodate for dropping off at different schools. I know that right now the school buildings are only open at 7:45 in the morning because they don't have the staff to be there any earlier, which I also know, and I am not asking for staff to be there earlier. I'm just wondering if there might be differences in drop-off and end times to accommodate for families who are going to have different students at different schools if this were to move forward. Also, one last point, and then I will let you get on with your meeting. If the teachers who are going to be teaching different subjects, I know that they have grade-specific trainings. Would they be brought up to date on the training modules that they would need for the grade level that they are moving towards? Or are they going to be teaching these levels and then not getting that training because we just don't have the funds to be able to do so? So I just want to make sure that our teachers aren't missing out on trainings, also that they're not training. I mean, I know that they are all very well equipped and very knowledgeable to teach the children that are in their care. But I want to make sure that they're having the best resources available to them that we can provide as well. And I also wanted to say to all the tennis players that came up and spoke that that's a really big deal. You guys should be really proud of that for yourself, because that's something that doesn't go away. So I think that's really cool. So thank you so much.
We're going to adjourn the work session. We'll come back in the session for the regular board meeting at 6:30.
Anyone wishes to speak, there is a public input portion at the end of the regular meeting. And there's been a line that says, want to sign up to speak for the next portion, we send contribution.
Ready to?
We're ready.
All the board meeting session, please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic which stands one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty for all.
Looking for a motion to approve the agenda. So moved by Ben, seconded by David. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is the principal's report from the Itasca Education Center. Angie Bird.
Thank you, board, for having me. This is a tough act to follow. After hearing everybody's outpours and outreaches for cuts, I am here to present on the Itasca Education Center at the cottage. We have some great things going on. So, in case you don't know, we have a partnership with North Homes, and we have two separate buildings there. One is the cottage, and one is Itasca Education Center. We house students from all over the state. So it's not just students in Itasca County, they come from to us from everywhere. The cottage has a capacity of 20, so there's two units, two separate units, one male, one female, max of 10. Right now we're housing 18 students there total. At IEC we have a capacity of 52, and right now as of today we're at 29. There's 4 different units that can house anywhere from 22 to 11 students. Again, separate male and female units. We have 3 teachers currently at IEC. We have one that is a 0.2, we have a 0.8 teacher, and then we have a 1.0. And then at IEC we also have 3 1.0 teachers. And then we have one teacher who floats in between. And so he does all of the PE classes for the cottage and for IEC, and we have a main building that he works out of. So if you're familiar out of River Road, they have the three separate buildings. That middle building he kind of uses, there's a little gym in there and whatever else. So we have 3 ESPs at IEC because they have the majority of the students. We're supposed to have 2 ESPs at the cottage, but currently we only have 1 because we have struggled to hire an ESP out there. The biggest concern with having people kind of go, well, that's low numbers, that's a lot of staff. It is, but for the safety and staff and students, we need that many hands on deck. We have North Home staff, but they're not generally in the classroom unless we need them. And I will say that our teachers and our parents work so well together. They never want to be left in a room alone together. So they just, they float and they make sure that they're in close proximity. Out there, it is unconventional. It is not like East or West or Rapids High School or our gyms. Relationships are the key to our success. We have students who are there for either a 35-day eval. We have students there that are there for anywhere from 3 months to a year. We have students that are placed there just for shelter if they're looking for classroom. And so the rotation of those students coming in and out is tough, but our teachers and our ESPs do such an amazing job of learning about them immediately when they step foot into our building. Who are you? Where are you from? What can I do to help? They just do an amazing job of getting to know those students right away. Not unlike the other buildings, we do use STAR testing. Because we have students that are anywhere from 4th grade to 12th grade in a classroom at the same time, we really have to use those assessments to kind of go, okay, where are my students at? And then we have students who are like above high school level, they're still in high school, so our teachers really have to have that wide range of, I've got a 4th grader here who might be at a 2nd grade level, but I have a 12th grader who might be at a college level. So they do an amazing job of differentiating the curriculum, looking at the assessments, really knowing where their students are at, as well as building up those relationships. Let's see, what else did I have? And then I'm not quite sure if you're aware, but the cottage was not open at the beginning of this, or right at the end of this summer. It was taught to us by North Homes because, as you know, the mental health need for students is just growing and growing and growing. And there's not a lot of facilities to help those students out. And so we opened up the cottage, and thanks to Buildings and Grounds, our resilient staff, and North Home staff, we got that open literally probably 2 days before school started. So We got our classrooms up and running, and it seems to be going smoothly. It's been some adjustments with scheduling and trying to make sure that everybody's getting what they're needing, but they did a really, really nice job. Overall, it's a unique buildings. The staff out there love it. Usually once they start out there, they don't want to leave there. They're working with the toughest students. They're working with the ones who need that relationship piece and need the help the most. And so I'm just really proud of them. They've done a really nice job and continue to work hard for the people that are out there. So any questions?
Questions from the board? Thanks, guys.
And do our students graduate out of the program?
As far as like a high school diploma or just like graduate, they could possibly, yes. So we educate here, but a lot of those credits will go to their home district.
Where they graduate?
Where they graduate from. So yes, we help them with that, but they don't necessarily get a diploma from Grand Rapids School.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the February 12th, 24 regular school board meeting for a motion. If I need it, second by David. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Sir. Next item on the agenda is approve the February 2024 claims in the amount of $5,710,441.36. Moved by Ben. Second by Melissa. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. February 2024 claims are approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve an MOU with the Directors Union. Casey.
Good evening, board. Before you have an MOU with our directors unit, it's pretty straightforward. We had recently added the coordinators into the director unit with the last round of marketing and left the opportunity open to add new positions into that unit versus using individual contracts. So the unit and district have a proposal to add 3 coordinators: the human resource coordinator, benefits coordinator, and the controller. This would be for the duration of the contract going through 6/30/25, and then at that time you could write it into the contract. It's going well. Recommending approval.
So moved.
Moved by Pat. Second by Amy. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The MOU is approved. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Casey.
Thank you. Tonight we have Brenda Brover, ESP replacement hire, Holly Christensen, human resource coordinator transfer hire, Haley Heberlin, nurse replacement hire, Andra Heinen, ESP replacement hire, Zachary Holzman, assistant boys basketball coach replacement hire, AC Roan, controller transfer hire, Ashley Kangas, food service termination, Megan Wagner, ESP replacement hire, Kelly Wilkinson, assistant girls lacrosse coach replacement hire, and Ozzie Williams, routing specialist and dispatcher replacement hire. Recommending approval of the consent agenda.
Looking for a motion to approve.
So moved, David.
Support. Second by Ben. Reminder, there's no discussion on consent agenda. All in favor say aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve an American Indian Education Certificate agreement. Casey.
Thank you. We have a new contract before you for our Indian Education Student and Cultural Advocate Group. Excited to bring this to you. It's been in the works for a number of years. We've had these individuals for a long time. They're all being paid currently through Indian Ed funding. However, we haven't had a contract for them. So the contract is very consistent with what we have been doing for them. Their benefits will stay consistent with the past offerings. This group will, the same as our other hourly groups, they'll move to be paid as they work in the 24-25 year. And we did move on to the high deductible health insurance plan this year. And I'm recommending approval of the contract.
So moved, David.
Moved by David, second, support by Jen, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The agreement is approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve the FY25 district budget reduction program. Superintendent Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Julie pulls that up, I want to thank the people that are here tonight and spoke as well. And kick this off, our goal as a district related to this is about health and stability. And having a stable district is important for our staff. It's important for our communities. It's important for our students. And if we have a stable district, we're not here in March, we're not here in April, talking about things that we might be losing. We're talking about things that maybe we're adding. And there are three things specifically that are important that we've been talking about for some time that we need to do in order to be stable and in order to be healthy. We have to balance our budget, which we've done for 2 years, last year, this year, and now based on the activity moving into next year, we are third year in a row balancing the budget. And the second thing we need to do is build our fund balance. And we've been doing that based on the board's goal of 10-15% of our fund expenditures. We'll grow that by 3 to 5% in the next couple of years. We'll hopefully be over 7% at the end of this fiscal year. That's the projection. So we've been doing one, we've been doing two. The third thing that we need to do to be healthy and stable, and again, this is something we all need and benefit from, is we need to be able to do those two things without the help of COVID funds, and we need to be able to do those things without cuts. And once we've reached that, we will be healthy and we'll be stable, which is good for everybody. We have four things that we can do related to that third item, balancing our budget. And I've talked about these quite a bit too. We can get more kids, we can get more money from the state, we can get more community financial support. And I'd remind you and remind anyone else listening, over 70% of the rest of the districts in the state have done number 3, and that's what we attempted to do in November. And number 4, we can cut reductions, or cut expenses and implement reductions like we've had to do the last 4 years. This will be the 5th. And what's challenging about school district budgets, ours included, is that 83% of what we do, 83% of what we spend is our people. That makes reductions especially challenging. I wanted to talk a second about how we're doing with the money that we do receive as a school district. Most of that comes from the state, as we've seen before, well over 70%. That's why when the legislature is talking, we listen really carefully. How are we doing? We've had a couple data points externally that validate that what we're doing is what we should be doing. First is Standard & Poor's. That's a well-recognized organization. They evaluate community, business, public sector health, and they recently upgraded our outlook from negative to stable. That's an important thing for us as we operate in the public space and sometimes receive funds federally or borrow funds. The second thing that is a good external validation, we are required by law to have an audit every single year. We comply with that. Obviously, there were some questions during the referendum about, having somebody look at our books. That happens every single year. And we review that in November and December. Our recent financial audits have come back clean. Our audits have come back with an unmodified or unqualified opinion, which is the cleanest opinion auditors can give. And so the money that we've been getting has been going to the right place. We've been taking care of it, and we've been qualified or identified as a low-risk auditee in the past 2 years. Again, that indicates that we're taking care of the money that we get, doing the right things with it. The second thing I wanted to just mention is that we get less money than the state average, and we spend less money than the state average. So we're doing what we can with less money than most districts have. And I think that speaks to a level of efficiency and a level of planning and trying to take care of, again, trying to take care of what funds we do get. What have we done so far to reconcile our budget? We've made a great deal of cuts. This year will put us closer around that $9 million mark over the last 4 to 5 years. I mentioned the balancing the budget. I think we've been very, very careful with our COVID funds that we did receive. I think we've used those as well as anybody to balance our budget and mitigate reductions that could have been much deeper if we weren't careful and smart with those funds. And we're looking, into that September timeframe. We mentioned before, we talked about those funds have to be spent by September. We've kept those, we haven't spent those frivolously in order to help our budget and be planful. How did we get to where we are today planning wise? The first thing that we did was determine the amount that was going to be brought forward, and that involved reviewing financial data from the past, financial data from the current fiscal year, as well as future years, making projections. And I talked about how difficult that is in the school district because most of our revenue drivers are unknown to us. We don't know what the state's going to give us. We don't know what our enrollment is going to be in a year or 2 years or 3 years from now. It makes projections really, really difficult. So we have to use modeling. We also watch our state legislative changes. They're in session right now. Obviously, it's not a budget year, but there still could be some things that happen in the spring that we're watching, and then enrollment, of course, is a big driver, like I mentioned. The second thing was considering the amount necessary to balance our budget. I mentioned that. Key thing to be stable, build our fund balance. That's the second thing, to be stable, but also to think future-wise. So I think our role as leaders is to think just about the here and now, but also think about where are we going to be in a year, or 2 years, or 3 years, and how do we put ourselves in the best position we can be for then without overreacting in the now. The second thing that we did was share information in addition to the many budget updates I did over the course of the referendum campaign. We held 3 staff meetings over the last couple of months, including one in Big Fork, and remote options. Held a community meeting where we had over 160 people attend that evening, and hundreds of people watch the recording of that. So shared information that way. And then we also got input from folks via forums. The unit leaders, as Carol Kopp mentioned earlier, brought forth the recommendations, and we considered those as we put together our plans, and at least 8 meetings with the administration and the leaders to review those options to make the best decisions we can. And we talked, I think, publicly before, we're not in a position to be making easy decisions. The easy reductions are long gone. We're making decisions between what's hard and harder, or bad and worse. So that's the condition we're in, and I'll just recognize too that when I talk to superintendents from around the state, we don't have the market corner budget challenges right now. There are districts all over the state that are going through budget reductions this time of year because of the same reasons that we are. You have a printout that I've shared with you. It's largely, I think, the same as the one that went out, but I want to go through the reductions item by item and talk about the list and what we're looking at, the implications of those. The first one at the district level is broken out by level of building software. That would include the elimination of some lower use software tools currently available to teachers. Some of that could be things like Seesaw we mentioned earlier. Mr. DeBay, our teaching and learning director, has worked to identify that list. Every one of these has implications, including this one, relative to challenges for teachers. And what this software has to do with what we're using currently on computers, and that has. Casey shared some staffing items around the district office restructuring. You've been taking action on that. This includes the elimination of a position, adding some other support staff there, and contracting and providing business services for 2 other companies. Essentially, we're selling our services to generate revenue. The result of that will be additional duties for current staff and workload for current staff. Our teaching and learning director, that's an administrative, a district administrative position, we'll be eliminating that. You know, that's the position that is responsible for our core business, or primarily responsible for our core business, teaching and learning. And so it's challenging to think about eliminating that position. But as we went through the process, it seemed like a place that we needed to look. Those duties won't disappear, like many of the things on here. Those duties will need to be redistributed. And so Ryan DeBay is currently in that position. He'll move into the assistant principal position at our gyms. Angie Burke was here just recently, has done an excellent job there, and done an excellent job at ISD, as she is reporting on tonight. She'll move into a position that we're replacing. We have a current interventionist position at our gyms. She'll be moving into that, replacing the current staff person with birth. Ryan will maintain some duties around secondary curriculum, and Jill Wheelock will be picking up the responsibilities at the elementary level. And as a result of those additional responsibilities, we felt it was important to move her into a role where she would have some administrative support, and specifically with the principal. And so she's going to be taking over duties at East Rapids Elementary School, and so she can be in a principal position where she has some backup, and that means Bruce Goodwin will be moving to Cohasset Elementary. Some of the other duties related to this are that currently Ryan is responsible. I will be picking up some of those duties around technology and leadership in that area. Some of the other duties will fall to Jen Shadeen, our MTSS coordinator. Other duties will fall to Anna Lloyd and the strategy team as they work to lead out what's happening for teaching and learning and implement our operational plan. So a lot of strings attached to that position, a lot of consequence to eliminating it. And if you notice on your sheet here, I didn't mention, but I've tracked on the far right of the document what things were identified by our unit leaders and what things showed up in our community input. And I put an X in the box if it was something that was identified by the group or that aligned with feedback we got from that group. So you'll see many of these items, especially at the district level, fall into that category. Moving down the list, technology, we currently offer and provide multiple devices for staff, and so part of the reductions will be eliminating that and moving to a model where there's one staff device per person. Again, that was recommended by both our unit leaders and the community, as well as moving away from a one-to-one in some of our elementary grades to more of a cart-based model. And that'll be challenging for our teachers when it comes to time for testing, especially. It'll require some scheduling and things like that. Our MTSS coordinator, one of the things that was mentioned by people was to try and solicit some revenue. And so we're a recipient of an MTSS grant that's going to help cover some salary and costs in that area for the next 2 years. Reduce busing costs. Last year we made a shift that resulted in a policy where if a student didn't ride a bus for, I believe it was 15 days, they were removed from the roster of that bus. And then, so we can keep our rosters as tight and efficient as we can. Full buses obviously are important to maintaining an efficient fleet and transportation system. One of the other steps that we're recommending here that many districts have taken, especially districts our size, is to shift to one pickup and drop off per family. That again will not only provide a safer situation for students. If you've been in a school or a classroom at the end of the day, at the elementary especially, students aren't aware of where they're going, what bus they're supposed to be on. It's a very stressful time. So shifting to one pickup and drop off location per family will help with that safety. It'll also help us to be more efficient with rostering for our buses, and we'll make sure that we would accommodate families that have custody, unique custody situations. So we can work on that. That will help us to eliminate the transportation costs. Some other software reductions we can make at the district level, frontline analytics. One of the other changes next, facilities technician. That's a position that exists to fix and repair things across the district. We've been struggling in that area, or it's been challenging to keep up. And again, we can't make these reductions without implications. The implication there, the work orders that our staff submit will take longer to fill. It'll be a consequence of that position. I'm not recommending that we make that change until school starts in the fall, because there'll be a lot of transition this summer. And during school startup, there is generally a great deal of work to be done there. So our recommendation is to start that after school year gets going. Another item that came from our unit leader was to cut costs related to retirement recognitions, bells, plaques, things like that. Another one had to do with changing our travel and meal policy to reduce travel expenses. So taking that group's input on that. The next one, and I really would have an X in the staff box there. Every year the school district is required to every year the district is required to set aside funds for staff development. Some of those funds are managed by the district, and some of those are managed by our staff development committee. And one of the things that can happen is that staff can vote to enable the district to hang on to an amount of those or all of those. Last week, our teachers voted to forego $100,000 of the $250,000 in staff development funds. I think it's an incredible sacrifice being made by our teachers, and I appreciate that. And that'll enable the elimination of $100,000 in expenditures for fiscal 25 and enable the district to get on better footing as it relates to balanced budget and fund balance. So appreciate that by our staff. The other thing that I anticipate in the next year is the sale of the administrative building. There are a couple interested parties in that. I put a number in here that's conservative, and there's obviously operation costs that go into that as well. And so I anticipate that this fiscal year, that brings the total district level reduction to $825,000. Any questions on those items?
Was there anybody else who is giving up additional professional development funds that don't show up in this sheet?
Anna Lloyd and myself, we also gave up our PD for next year to some PD that was under contracts. All right, thank you. Moving into high school reductions. The high school and general education media pair, those are positions hung on to over time, but we've seen those have to go away through reductions. And this plays out high school as well as an English reduction of 0.6 FTE. Implications there, obviously higher class size. We've seen that at the high school, and we'll continue to see that as FTEs reduce. And then parking fees. Parking districts often use parking fees to help cover the costs of parking lot supervision and safety items there. So that's as well. That was an item that was identified by our unit leaders. In combination with the high school and the middle school, one of the items was to share a liaison officer between the high school and middle school. Instead of each building having their own, we do have a security paraprofessional at the high school that's been working with them for quite some time, going the law enforcement officer. That position will stay. I know at our gyms they use road officers a lot more this year, and we'll need to continue to depend on road officers as well to support their safety and security work. At our gyms, also a reduction of 0.2 in each of math, social, and English science, as well as a reduction in choir of 0.2. See the total there for our gyms. Any questions on those items?
In regards to the liaison officer, any issues with going more towards road officers and issues of response time?
Yeah, in talking to the principals at our gyms, I think they both were positive in terms of response time that we've seen from GRPD. And we sure appreciate the partnership and their willingness to jump in and support that. This is a challenging spot for them to be in, obviously. I think, for a county deputy position or a GRPD, more is always better. But we've been appreciative of the response time from GRPD.
So just for clarification, my understanding, one of the reasons we invite the students process through the student legislative changes that have been done. But they're trying to rectify currently in this session, but whether or not they will be able to yet to be seen.
Yeah, there were significant changes, and if we go back and read some of the news from last spring and summer, significant changes were made last session in regards to what school resource officers are able to do in schools, and that changed how they can respond. So we found ourselves this year needing to use road officers in order to respond in the way that we need to, in ways that our school resource officers weren't able to respond. Because you're right, there's legislation that's been proposed, they're working through that currently to try to come up with some kind of compromise there. And we'll see how that plays out. Yeah. All right, moving into east and west of Cohasset. This is where things get a little bit more, require some more clarity with respect to some of the comments tonight. The part of the reduction there, or the majority of the reduction there, is 3 FTEs at east and west, specifically in grades 2, 3, and 5. When you've been doing reductions as long as we have, this is our 5th year, making reductions like this is incredibly challenging. Because when you do this in an elementary school or the high school, as I mentioned earlier, it affects how big the classes are. There's just no way around it. And our current model is making it more and more difficult to manage class sizes in a way that's fair to children, families, and staff with our current structure. And so I'll talk about why this looks this way, or why the corresponding recommendation is to move to grade level buildings west, specifically at K2, East 2 and 3, 5, and I'll illustrate how this looks or why this plays out this way on the next slide. This was something that came forward from our unit leadership. Again, the purpose of the restructuring of west and east is to manage class sizes as we're making reductions. We weren't having to make reductions. This would be something we need to do. But we've made a number of reductions we've already made in our elementary schools, and need to make more based on our current financial situation. Again, going back to the comment earlier, with the funds that we would have received in a referendum, with community support, would help us avoid this. This is where we're at. So we're in this position now. The second thing there, you can see library repairs similar to what we have in school, and as part of that elementary production. So how does the change to grade level buildings help? First, I mentioned earlier, it enables us to manage class sizes better without having to shuffle families and parents every year. If you look back at the last 2 years and the last 2 springs, we've had to make communications, whether that's restricting movement or whether that's strictly enforcing boundaries that were established. We had to tell many parents this last spring, you're not able to go to the school that you prefer because you live in a particular boundary. Not moving forward with grade level buildings will push that even further and will require us to shuffle children, families, move boundaries in order to manage class sizes. So I'll share with you why that is. There aren't big savings associated with just moving the building structure. It has to do with how we are operating and how efficiently we are able to operate with way fewer staff. If you go back and rewind to fiscal 21, 2021 school year, we were running West and East Rapids Elementary with 5 sections of kindergarten, first, second, and I believe 3rd grade, 4 sections of 4th and 5th. We don't have nearly those numbers anymore. So currently, as an example, I mentioned second, third, and fifth grades as being grades that we're going to make a staffing reduction in or a section reduction. Currently, these are rounded numbers. We have about 100 students at West and 100 students at East, 4 sections at both of those schools. And if we were to make a section reduction in second grade, we'd be posed with this question: where is that section reduced? Is it reduced at West? Is it reduced at East? If we reduce it in one place, obviously, and not the other, we end up with class sizes like 34 or 33 in one building, while the other building remains untouched, which puts a significant disadvantage or challenge to those second grade teachers in one building, while the other building remains the same. Now, there are, it's been recommended to me, we'll just move kids from West to East. We've been doing that to a degree. The challenge is when you're moving a second grade student, you're essentially moving a student, but oftentimes that student has children or has siblings, and so it's not just as simple as moving a kid here or a kid there. And so it would require the movement of many students or specific students. It would also probably require adjustment of boundaries, and it would require us to do that virtually every single year. So in this case, if we cut a section, we have class sizes going up 8 or 9, but just in one building. If we look at this in one building at 8 sections with those same 200 students, and we reduce a section, it goes down to 7 sections. In those 200 students, class size goes up by 3 or 4 kids across those sections. So it enables us to balance and manage those class sizes much easier, much more fairly, much more equitably for the children in those rooms, for the teachers that are teaching in those classrooms. And again, this is happening in second grade this year. This is replicated in third grade for the fall. It's replicated in fifth grade for the fall. And as we continue, or if we need to continue to make reductions at the elementary level, we need to be in a position to be able to do this, to manage this class size change without it dramatically affecting a building versus the other. The same is true when hopefully we're on the back side of this, we're able to add sections back in. Having our buildings together enables us to add a section to a grade level and have that improvement, that section that's added, positively affect all the teachers there, all the children there, all the families there, not just a select group. This chart is challenging to see, I'm sure, because the numbers are small, but this shows our current enrollment counts, our current class sizes. Melissa, I think you're the one with the 2015 vision, or 2030 vision, I guess would be, right? Or 30, I don't know, better vision.
What do you need?
Yeah, what do we need? So you can see the class sizes at Cohasset ranging in that 26 to 28 area, East and West, in the 24 to 29 area, similar to West. This is what they look like right now. With the movement to grade level buildings, rolling our current enrollment forward, and making those reductions, we're able to maintain class sizes in that same 26 to 28, 24 to 29 at both East and West. We would not be able to do that without moving children, moving families, moving boundaries, without having grade level buildings in place.
Now, can I ask one clarifying question? You talked about when you say when we have those numbers and we don't have the numbers anymore. It's not that we don't have the pupil numbers, right? The pupil numbers have remained the same. It's our staff.
It's our staff. Yeah, it's our staff numbers. Like I said, if you rewind to the 2021 school year, we had 5 sections of K, 1, 2, and 3, and 4 of 4 and 5. We don't have 5 sections in any grade anymore. So we've lost, 4 or 5 sections of each one of those buildings already. So this is sort of moving into that next phase. And again, this isn't proposing that eliminating teachers or staff in any way is positive or good or what I think is a wonderful thing. It's not, but this is the situation we're in. This need to balance our budget, build our fund balance, and do that without thinkable. Something that I think is worth mentioning as well, I mentioned earlier that many districts around the state are working through this budget reduction process. There are other districts our size that are having similar discussions or have made similar decisions recently. Little Falls has gone through the same process of realigning their buildings. Hibbing has gone through the process of realigning their buildings. And in both cases, the rationale is the same. They're trying to reduce their budget without having it as dramatically affect the class size experience for children and staff. The second thing that occurs when you do this, it enables buildings to operate more effectively. One of the things that I've heard over and over since I came here is we need time together with our grade levels. And it's been challenging to do because of staffing, because of distance, things like that. This changes the dynamic when 7 or 9 or 80 or 10 grade level partners are all in the same place. So it makes that staff collaboration, curriculum alignment work much more simpler when the neighbors in your hallways are working with the same grade level students. The other thing that can happen, and in talking with districts where this has happened, buildings develop a culture to meet the needs of those individual grade banded kids. So kindergarten is very different than fifth grade. So buildings are able to sort of plug in, support those children and families uniquely, their unique educational and emotional development received kids in a smaller neighborhood. So it's a model that's out there. We're not pioneering this by any means. Other districts have moved through this. That's the reason to do it, but we'll look at how do we make the reductions we need to make, but still be responsible with class sizes. This becomes our option. Any other questions about this?
The only other question is, so what I heard from places that were just hearing about it today, we've talked about it a few times, both with staff, leaders that came in, but it would come up originally back in October before we went out.
Right.
Right?
Right. One of the things that I was asked, thank you for that. One of the things I was asked during the referendum is what's going to happen if this fails. On October 9th, we had a board meeting, and I shared with you and the community at that point what options would be on the table we need to consider if we were in the spot where we need to make reductions. This was one of the options that we talked about, and the rationale was shared at that point. I also talked about this at the community budget meeting in February. So it's come up those 2 times very publicly and also in many of the discussions. So this is one of the things we talked about possibly what we could do. If we got to this point, we're here, we're at this point. Activities. We had a lot of discussion about activities tonight. People shared. Really proud of our student athletes for coming. More data continues to come in around activities, and so the total reduction that we're looking at activities 38,000. Some of that's travel, some of that's supply. On the list that I gave you, we did go through a process and identified tennis as a sport that has some specific data points that were of concern. If the board would rather direct me to work with the activities director, I'm hoping to do that. But the reduction here that we're looking to make out of activities is 38,000. Again, that's not a new conversation. Back to October 9th, one of the things that I said would be a part of our reduction plan, no matter which option we chose, activities was a part of that. It's something we heard loud and clear during our referendum, that you need to be looking at activities, not just what's happening in the classroom. It came out of our community input, obviously, and so this is something that was being proposed as well. Total reduction across the district, the levels that I mentioned tonight is listed there, and I'm open to any discussion or questions. Oh, before I do that, I know there were some questions about the grade level logistics. There's a great deal of the logistics that goes with that. Transportation is one, the move is another one, ensuring that we have enough time and space and energy and capacity to do that move. Part of what we had to do last Friday was sending out notices to staff. Our priority was about looking at teams and what staff were on what teams. So we had strong teams in our K through 5 areas. What would be really organized fields. There are a number of logistics that need to get worked out. The plan would be to pull together a team with administrative representation, staff representation, start working through, okay, assume this is something we're moving forward with. How do we go about thinking through all the details that are going to be important to make this successful? Ultimately, that's going to be successful. Is that a hand raise?
Yes, it is.
Matt, thank you for the information here. I know a lot of work has gone into this, and I think as one board member, and I probably say this for all board members, we don't like this any more than anybody else. Just to offer a suggestion, and maybe this is in your radar already. I know you've done Facebook Lives in the past. Based on the questions tonight that were raised, is it possible that you could maybe do another Facebook Live to our community to answer the questions that were posed to us and you tonight? And I'm sure that'll probably generate some more questions going forward. Again, I think the key piece, again, is communication about this, and I'm sure there will be more communication as we get closer to next fall and the starting of the next school year. But again, I think the more we get out there, the better off it'll be, and getting factual information out versus stuff that might be posted on social media with incorrect information and that. So I don't know if you have anything scheduled, but is that possible, something that you could do and schedule up going forward?
Of course, I think that's a great idea. I know like I said, there's been some question around transportation, and our transportation department, I trust them to come up with a plan. Those buildings had K-5 kids in them. I checked with principals about playgrounds. That was something I was curious about, and they feel confident about the buildings' ability to accommodate that. Some rooms have bathrooms, some don't. We can definitely work through that. But I think setting something up like that to iron out some of those details or answer the questions we can is sure we will do.
Thank you.
Superintendent Gross, you indicated in the activities that you're looking for a $38,000 reduction. You also indicated you're kind of willing to look at some of the details of that. Kind of what I'm hearing. Yeah, we don't have spring participation numbers right now yet. So that's data that we don't have for the 23-24 school year. Like I said, tennis was something that based on the process and the data points that we had leading into today, was something that we were looking closely at, but we don't have spring boys tennis data to look at. The other thing we don't have is the full view of activity fees for the 23-24 school year. This isn't something from a timeline standpoint, with our staffing changes and alignment that we had to do last Friday. We have deadlines around ULA that we need to make. We have deadlines, and Carol mentioned it, that we're trying to be respectful and humane as it relates to timeline for people that have to make decisions. We have to keep postings. A number of the staffing items that you're going to be taking action on tonight, we have to do by law because we have to work through licensure issues. This isn't one of the reductions that has a hard and fast timeline component to it, so additional time might give us the ability to look at some more additional data points. I'm willing to do all those preference. Any other questions? At this point, we're looking for a Motion to approve the district reduction program. If you're making the motion, and if you would put some sort of a statement about the activities part of that, and then it points in. So I'm looking for a motion.
I would move to approve the district protection program for now, with holding back on activities until we have more data information.
Looking for a second.
Alice, a second.
Second from Melissa. Discussion.
And there was a question, just like when we have combined schools, because we have a lot. And how does that work when we talk to other school districts? So is it possible for another school district to take on the sport? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, generally, when we cooperate with a sport, we have a form that's filled out, and we did that with Big Four recently for speech. There's some sort of cost sharing agreement that's in place, whether that's splitting it 50-50 or it's based on participation. Tennis is based on participation, so it's prorated based on what school our student athletes are from. If we were to eliminate a sport that we do cooperate on, we would withdraw from that cooperation.
Any further discussion, questions?
Pat has his hand raised.
Mr. Chair, and Matt, in regards to the tennis piece of it, at least what I was hearing tonight, it sounded like there was some support from the community of maybe raising funds for that. Is it possible maybe to get a meeting together with Greenway and just have some discussion about that piece and what that looks like? I mean, we have other sports that raise their own funds to have that activity. And again, it sounds like there was that interest based on what I was hearing tonight. Maybe it warrants that discussion with Greenway and see how they feel about it. Maybe yourself and our activities director can get together with their activities director and their superintendent or principals, whatever, and have that discussion and see what that might look like. And maybe some of the people that were there tonight, maybe a reach out to them and have them part of that discussion as well going forward.
I'm definitely open to that. These are challenging decisions. There's not a person in the room that's interested in reducing opportunities for students. So if there's a way to do this without doing that, just good to look at all options. So definitely want to do that.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I would just want to acknowledge the work that went into this. While it's my responsibility to bring this to you as a superintendent, it's my job to do this. It certainly is the work of a lot of people and a lot of thinking. And, again, these aren't decisions. There's not one of these ideas that hasn't received a lot of thought, a lot of debate, a lot of discussion. I know our administrative teams thought through the consequences of these. None of these things will happen without some kind of consequence or some sort of ripple. I have the work that our unit leadership did as well to brainstorm and getting consensus among a group that large is challenging. And so I appreciate the partnership that as well as the feedback from our staff members. So just want to recognize that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the proposal stated by Board Member Marty, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The district budget production program is approved. Next item on the agenda, approve a resolution relating to probationary teacher non-renewal spacing.
Thank you. So before you, you have a resolution relating to the non-renewal of the teaching contract for multiple probationary teachers. This process is an annual process and it follows Minnesota statute 122-840 subdivision 5. It's required to happen by July 1st of each year, but we're pushing it up. We normally do it in the spring and are doing it even sooner than that this year. As Matt mentioned, the list is pretty long, but the majority of these non-renewals are related to licensure issues, and they are required in order to get a subsequent license to be posted for a period of time. So there's 13 full non-renewals on the list and then 4 22 non-renewals.
Clerk Marty, could you read the blank resolution aloud for council?
Yes. This is the resolution relating to the termination and non-renewal of the teaching contract of blank, a probationary teacher. Whereas blank is a probationary teacher in the Independent School District number 318, be it resolved by the school district of Independent School District 318 that pursuant to Minnesota statutes 122A.40 subdivision 5, that the teaching contract of blank, a probationary teacher in Independent School District 318 is hereby terminated at the close of the current 2023-2024 school year. Be it further resolved that written notice be sent to said teacher regarding termination and non-renewal of his or her contract as provided by law, and that said notice shall be in substantially the following form. Notice of termination and non-renewal. Dear blank, you are hereby notified that at a regular meeting of the School Board of Independent School District number 318, held on March 11, 2024, a resolution was adopted by a majority roll call vote to terminate your contract effective at the end of the current school year and not renew your contract for the 2024-2025 school year. Said action of the board is taken pursuant to Minnesota statute 122A.40 subdivision 5. Very truly yours, School Board of Independent School District 318, in Marty Clerk.
At this point, I'm looking for a motion, a second to adopt the resolution. So moved by Ben. Second from Mindy. Marty, if you read the list of names.
The adoption of the resolution will include the following teachers: Jacob Anderson, Ryan Christensen, Ann Hutner, Jesse Lathrop, Tiffany Morgan, Rachel Newman, Joseph Roberts, Bailey Seifert, Sherry Trombley, Tyler Wass, Simon Wilson, Elliot Wolfson, Emma Youngkin, Brian Lindula, who's part-time, 0.2 FTE non-renewal, Benjamin Ponchinchin, part-time, 0.2 FTE non-renewal, Amanda Rutnan, part-time, 0.2 FTE non-renewal, and Heather Ryan, part-time, 0.2 FTE non-renewal.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Julie, can we have a roll call vote?
Melissa Barr,
Yes.
David Marty,
Yes.
Ben Hawkins,
Yes.
Pat Maduri,
Yes.
Mindy Nuring, Mark Schroeder.
Yes. Resolution relating to probationary teacher non-imposed. Next item on the agenda, approve resolution relating to proposal to place teacher on unrequested leave of absence.
The resolution before you includes one teacher being placed on a partial unrequested leave of absence. This process is also driven by state statute 122-840 subdivision 5. Contractually, the ULAs need to be notified by April 15th. Tonight, you're approving the proposal for the ULA, and the formal ULA approval will come at a later meeting.
Is that subdivision 10?
Yes, subdivision 10, thank you. It's on that long resolution.
Clerk Marty, please read the blank resolution aloud without the names.
This is the resolution proposing to place blank on unrequested leave of absence. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District number 318 as follows. Number one, that it is proposed that blank teacher of said school district be placed on unrequested leave of absence without pay or fringe benefits, effective at the end of the 2023-2024 school year on May 31st, 2024, pursuant to Minnesota Statute 122A.40, subdivision 10. The written notice be sent to said teacher regarding the proposed placement on unrequested leave of absence without pay or fringe benefits as provided by law, and said notice shall include a date for hearing if requested and be substantially in the following form. This is the notice of proposed placement on unrequested leave of absence and notice of hearing date if requested. Dear blank, you are hereby notified that at the regular meeting of the School Board of Independent School District number 318 held on March 11th, 2024, consideration was given to your placement on unrequested leave of absence without pay or fringe benefits as a teacher of Independent School District 318, and a resolution was adopted by a majority roll call vote of 4, proposing your placement on unrequested leave of absence effective at the end of the 2023-2024 school year on May 31st, 2024, pursuant to Minnesota Statute 122A.40, subdivision 10, on the grounds described in said statute, which are specifically as follows: lack of pupils and financial limitations. Under the provisions of the law, you are entitled to a hearing before the school board, provided that you make a request in writing within 14 days after receipt of this notice. If no hearing is requested within such period, it shall be deemed acquiescence by you, the school board's proposed action. Please advise if such hearing is requested. Yours very truly, School Board of Independent School District 318, David Marty Cook.
I'm looking for a motion to adopt the resolution for Madeline Melton, a 0.2 FTE partial unrequested leave of absence, bringing her to a total unrequested leave of absence of 0.4 FTE. Looking for a motion and a second. So moved. Moved by David. Second. Second by Ben. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Julie, can we have a roll call vote?
Yes. Mark Schroeder,
Yes.
Melissa Barr,
Yes.
David Marty,
Yes.
Ben Hawkins,
Yes.
Pat Maduri,
Yes.
Mindy Nuring,
Yes.
At this point, the motion and second, the motion to put Madeline Melton on unrequested leave of absence is approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve the school board members' right to employment. Superintendent Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Under current Minnesota statute, school boards are provided the ability to work for the school district under certain conditions. One of the conditions is that the board member submit a notification to the school board And in the packet, you'll find that notification from Mr. Jury detailing the issue and concerns. In the conflict of interest, again, this is normal and it's something that happens often. Mr. Jury drives a substitute bus in the school district. It's allowed in statute, which he included in this request, and I recommend approval.
Looking for a motion. So moved, David, with thanks and appreciation to Pat. Second. Second by Mindy. Any discussion? Julie, can you roll call vote?
Yes. Mindy Nuring,
Yes.
Mark Schroeder,
Yes.
Melissa Barr,
Yes.
David Marty,
Yes.
Ben Hawkins,
Yes.
and Pat Maduri.
Yes.
Motion has been approved. Next item on the agenda, accept capital equipment inventory report. Eric.
Good evening, board. Before you, you have a summary of our nearly $200 million in capital assets. The details been provided for you. The net value is also there. I'm just asking for acceptance of that listing. It's not approval up or down. It's just in accordance with our policy.
Looking for a motion to accept the minutes. So moved by Ben, second. By Melissa, discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Inventory report is accepted. Next item on the agenda, accept the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee annual compliance report. It's full. It's like Jessica.
Ujuanin. My name is Jessica Bobrowski, the program coordinator of Anishinaabe Win. Today, we are presenting with one of our parent committee members, Sierra Mailing, our annual compliance of concurrence, non-concurrence from the Minnesota Department of Education, Indian Education Office. Minnesota Statute 2023, Section 124D.78 requires Minnesota districts, charters, and tribal schools with 10 or more American Indian students to have an American Indian Parent Advisory Committee. Specifically, the statute states that school boards in American Indian schools must provide for the maximum involvement of parents and children enrolled in education programs. Programs for elementary and secondary grades, special education programs, and support services. To be compliant with this statute, districts, charters, tribal schools are required to submit annual compliance documents to the Office of American Indian Education, also known as the vote of concurrence, non-concurrence. The annual compliance is a valuable opportunity for American Indian Parent Advisory Committee members to meet and discuss whether or not they concur with the educational offerings that have been extended by the district to American Indian students.
Bonjour, I'm Sierra Mailing, a member of the Ojibwe Ed Parent Committee. The American Indian Parent Advisory Committee issued a vote of concurrence for the 23-24 school year on February 12, 2024.
Bonjour, I'm really proud of the program and the direction it's going. I just wanted to speak real quick. We recently had a tribal consultation with Fond du Lac, and for those of you that don't know, the tribal consultation piece of our funding is a required piece, but it goes beyond that. It is an amazing dialogue between the Fond du Lac tribal government and our program here at Grand Rapids. The questions asked, the dialogue back and forth, they bounce ideas off of us, we bounce ideas off of them. It's a meeting that we look forward to every year to help with our program.
And the feedback we get from Fond du Lac or Grand Rapids School District and the program is nothing but amazingly positive. They're very proud of our program. They look forward to us presenting to them every single year because of the work that's being done in our district. They speak of our program being a model program for other schools and encourage other schools to reach out to us. So it's pretty cool to have that feedback from. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to accept this. Moved by Melissa, second. Discussion.
Thanks to the American and program people. I was part of the discussion on the Lac Drive. It was, as Bruce has represented, very, very, very positive. So thank you.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Combined reports accepted. Next item on the agenda is board reports. Owen and Summer, do you guys want to start off?
Yeah, I'll start. So, a lot of stuff, I have like all the past stuff, some of all future, but this day got for really fun experience for all the students and parents, and have the band turn out for all 3 games, which really takes a lot of their funding, so that was really good. February. And
Students or
now, so and a thank you to all the sponsors who helped bring the band to the stage. This is sponsoring some. So thank you for that. I ask, we're moving our meetings around all the different districts. So we meet, I believe it's next week, we will be in Fall City. What I did want to say is Invest Early is doing some stakeholder groups in Fall City, Nashwauk, and Grand Rapids over a couple of day period of time to try to get feedback around where that program needs to go, both for employers towards that childcare, so jump on their website to find specific information about that, but that would be something that I think parents, especially those with young children or employers who are trying to bring in workers or sustain workers, that's a great opportunity for them. So, that's all I got.
Are we ready for Pat? No, you don't
I
want
think so.
Pat. Report.
All right, I think he can hear us now. I mean, Pat, can you hear us now?
I can now. I don't know if you can hear me at all.
Oh, that.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
I can't. A lot of feedback though, Mark. Are you looking for an update for me?
Yes, I am.
Okay, sorry. I'm not sure if it was touched on or not. I didn't get the whole conversation going, but just a shout out to the community members that helped get the band down for the hockey tournament this weekend. And shout out to all of our activity coaches. I know there's a lot of things that were happening this spring, if you will, from math going down the state to swimming to hockey to a number of activities in that. So just a shout out to all the students and coaches in that arena as well. Appreciate that. And I just want to follow up on Matt's comment about this budget reduction stuff. Kudos to our staff and helping us through this process, as well as the community. If you go back to the list and Matt pointed out, and I think it's worth repeating again, if you look at the X's, those ideas came from our staff and those ideas came from our community. And I know there was a lot more ideas that they had brought forth as well. But this is really, it's a tough thing to do, as we talked about. But I think what's nice about this is we asked for the input, and the input was given to us based on their ideas and thoughts of them, community as well as staff members. And that really, from my standpoint, it really helped us through this process. And as I said earlier, nobody likes this, but this is the reality on where we're at sitting today. And we need to keep that dialogue going. So again, I just want to say thank you to staff and community and bringing forward their ideas. And also I want to thank the people that spoke tonight, the community members as well as staff, and sharing their thoughts in regards to the reductions that we were making. Again, difficult spot to be in, but again, that's the reality on where we're at. So again, thank you.
I don't.
Sports fields, and we certainly have that happening in classrooms. And our staff have continued to teach and lead and support kids despite what's happening around them. And I know that can be tough and distracting. Our principals have continued to lead and support despite what's happening around them. and I'm proud of them, and honored to work alongside which we have. So, just really good team, and I appreciate the people we have here. The union leaders that we've worked with to make sure the process goes as smooth as possible. There's no easy and good way to do what we have to do over this time period. Notifications, how and when and where and what's the best way. There's not a great way to do it. And I feel fortunate that we're able to work through some of that to make it as good as it can be, as humane as it can be, and provide space for people to have the support that they need, especially when we're trying to do this in an accelerated timeline. Casey talked about, us being 3 months or 3 weeks, and some cases even more ahead of schedule would be in an effort to respect our staff. To Bruce and his team, Miigwech, to our Deacon Uamatawin staff, I was really proud to be at that consultation and to hear tribal council members. These are individuals involved with governing a sovereign nation recognize the work here. I think is remarkable, and it speaks to good leadership and people that care about our kids. So I just want to recognize them as well. I wanted to highlight something that Summer said because it's easy for it to come and go, and ties into our ISD-wide accessible prom is unbelievable. This is a multi-district effort to create an opportunity for kids that sometimes don't have an opportunity and or might be somehow excluded from things. And I think this idea was driven by the student. It came from our students as an idea, and it's sort of it's one of those things. Again, when I hear people say kids these days, I get annoyed because I'm like, this is what kids these days do. So really proud of that too. And then just want to wrap up. Clayton Linder, one of our principals, was awarded a Professional Leadership Award for the Minnesota Elementary School Principals Association. It's a unique award, important award, and Clayton certainly deserves that. Appreciate his leadership not only at ASPA but also in our school district. So we're going to recognize Clayton. That's all.
Thank you. Just a reminder that upcoming school board committee and meeting dates are posted on the agenda. School board meeting agendas can be found on the district website and on the designated posting site of the ISD Creating Educational Services Center. Or any other business to come before the board. Julie, do we have any signups for public input?
No other signups.
No other signups. Meeting's adjourned.
Right.